Close your eyes. Imagine for a moment that a terrorist has taken over the plane you're on. What do they look like? Do they have a long, dark beard? Perhaps they wear a turban wrapped around their head. Do they speak in a foreign and aggressive language, one with harsh consonants and rolling R's? Do they have an olive complexion and a set of piercing dark eyes? Do the pupils seem to dilate at you, hating you for your religion? Now open your eyes. Everything you have envisioned is incorrect. We have a problem in America, and that is racism and Islamophobia based on stereotypes and ignorance. Today, we will be discussing some of the misconceptions on what Muslim people are and who they are. Secondly, we will talk of the similarities and differences between the masses and the Muslim population, but the differences you may find are rather few. Finally, we will talk of cases of Muslims being discriminated against due to their religion. Firstly, let us start by defining what a Muslim is. Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines a Muslim as an adherent to Islam. That's it. No mention of a terrorist in that definition. In fact, Webster's dictionary defines a terrorist as a person who uses unlawful violence or intimidation, usually against civilians, in pursuit of political aim. Essentially, any person who uses violence or fear-mongering in order to gain something, generally political. Verbal, physical, even online, there can be terrorism. So, why are Muslims entirely considered terrorists while others are not? Religion. Something which has separated people for thousands of years, something which has caused so much fear and hatred, and yet, when you look at the three main monotheistic religions, you will see that they are all rather similar. According to Islamostudy.org, is written by John L. Espostio, the three, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, are all monotheistic faiths which center around the God of Adam, Abraham, and Moses, creator, sustainer, and Lord of the universe. All share a common belief in the sacred history, divine revelations, angels, and Satan. All stress moral responsibility and accountability, judgment day, and the eternal reward or punishment. Essentially, all three monotheistic religions are very similar. If you were to write a theatrical performance for each of the three monotheistic religions, they would have the same cast of characters. You likely know of Moses, who parted the Red Sea in order to save the Israelite slaves of Egypt. Well, in Islam, there's Musa, who parted the Red Sea in order to save the Israelite slaves of Egypt. And the Bible is simply the Torah word for word in English. And the Quran is simply a restatement of the Old Testament. So if Islam directly translates to peace, how is a Muslim different than, say, an Orthodox Jewish woman covering her hair or a nun covering her hair? In some way, there seems to be a misconception here. One may say that to compare the religions is inaccurate. They have some aspects which are too different to be compared. But the comparison of the religions is not to state that they are the same, but to instead state that they are similar. In fact, it is to state that they are similar because if they are so similar, why do people use such violent ways to distinguish them? Though hate crime is not the only way in which Muslim people are discriminated against. There are many actions which are not criminal, but rather disrespectful, which are often acted out against Muslim people, such as the pulling off of headscarves with the belief that Muslim people are dangerous or scary, though this is not the case, being that, as presented, Muslim people share a general moral compass with the rest of society. Let me give you a story, and you tell me who was in the wrong. A librarian, a woman who had worked at the public library for over 25 years, was doing her job and aiding in the printing of some documents for a patron. The documents, in this case, were that of religious purpose, ones which spoke of the Christian God. something the librarian was not opposed to. The librarian was a Muslim, a convert, meaning she was born into another religion and converted later in life. In this case, she was born a white Roman Catholic and did not cover her hair, thus not having the stereotypical appearance of a Muslim. The patron asked the librarian if she wanted a pamphlet. The librarian, not needing a pamphlet, denied the offer of the patron. She continued denying until she grew fed up and stated, "I am a Muslim." At this, the patron was shocked, horrified, taking with her all of her possessions and her pamphlets out the door. The next day, the librarian went to work to empty the book drop, and inside she found a letter addressed to the woman who does not believe in Jesus. Inside were hundreds of these Christian pamphlets, all speaking to a reader who had not found God. But the librarian was not bothered, because this was not the first and would not be the last time that she was hated. That librarian was my grandmother. Something horrible has happened, something which should never happen. The NAACP has reported that in 2017 there were 2 mosques, one in Washington State and one down in Texas, which were destroyed through the process of arson. Imagine you wish to go to Christmas Mass, or perhaps you have a question for your rabbi, so you travel to your local synagogue, and as you pull into the drive, all you see is ashes. Ashes! Think for a moment. A German boy or girl comes to the United States, a child free of hatred, and yet they begin being bullied relentlessly because, according to the masses, since the child is German, they must be a Nazi. Now, make that German child a Muslim child being called a terrorist regularly. Do you think that German child would be more protected than that Muslim child? That would be assumed. Being that just because of the events of World War II, not all Germans are Nazis. But because of the events of 9/11, all Muslims are terrorists. Though 9/11 happened, I dare say, 22 years ago. That is the issue, the true issue here. But the real question is, how does one solve an issue entirely created by the ignorance of society? How does one solve an issue which is already the solution to a pre-established issue? How does one solve cruelty caused by cruelty without inciting a greater amount of cruelty? One word: kindness. Name one societal ill which could not be solved with a greater amount of kindness. Perhaps the perfect world does not exist. Perhaps the world will always be a cruel and unforgiving place, but I feel as though there is always a way to get rid of hatred. And that is to do to hatred the opposite of what is being done due to hatred. To hold the thorny rose tenderly, to grasp the slippery tree branch, to hug the blade in your side, to smile at someone who's wronged you. To be kind is to be the most true to oneself. A simple question of the actual heart would allow for a mountain of understanding to be formed from the tectonic plates of human experience. To quote a wise man, you never truly understand someone until you've seen things from his perspective, until you've climbed into his skin and walked around in it. Who is anyone to judge before they have the right to judge? If you were to speak with that Muslim girl for a moment, you would learn that the two of you are quite similar. I dare say the two of us are quite similar. Now, when you imagine that terrorist, what is it that you picture? Because I hope that they look a little bit different. Thank you.